Welcome everyone, and I would like to welcome you here today. I've got a really special guest with me, Dr. Sanduk Ruit, who is joining us all the way from Nepal. This is a session that we've tried to set up for a couple of weeks, and we're talking to Ali Ripper, the author of The Barefoot Surgeon, which is the book about our venerable doctor today, later in the week. But if I can just say welcome, thank you for joining us all the way from Nepal. What's it like there? Is it cold or is it warm? What's the weather like?
Except for everything else, the weather is just beautiful.
Is it just beautiful at this time of the year?
Blue sky and wonderful temperature of about 18.
Oh, right. Okay.
Just perfect, but everything else is the same. Yeah.
All right. Well, before we get into all of that, maybe you can talk about what you're doing now in the clinic that you're operating in Kathmandu. That's correct, isn't it?
Right. Kathie, we have a center of excellence that we have built in Kathmandu. And normally this center examines about 1,000 patients every day. And we operate nearly about 40,000 surgeries a year. And we have, about 25 doctors working at the same time. And besides examining and restoring their sight, and we do spend a lot of time in training doctors and other paramedical staffs. And we also spend there's quite a bit of strong research component. And then the other thing that we do is in Nepal, we have an intraocular lens manufacturing facility, which manufactures these intraocular lenses, which are part and parcel of the modern cataract surgery. And they manufacture at very low cost, but still maintaining the quality. So these are some of the things that we do in Kathmandu. And besides this, we run another 20 community eye centers around the country. And we do go to different parts of Nepal. And we do get doctors coming from all over the world for training. And we do go to some of the countries outside Nepal to explain and to demonstrate the model of high quality, low cost, appropriate surgical technology to other countries in Asia and Africa. So these are some of the things that I'm busy doing right now, Kathie.
Well, before we go into your amazing backstory, I mean, the numbers you've just told me are phenomenal. How are you funded? Are you funded by, public donations and, do you get government funding? Because 1,000 patients a day, and did you say 40,000 patients per month? Is that what I heard? Or
about 1,000 patients every day. So we almost see about close to 25 to 26,000 patients every month.
That's incredible.
And, I think the way we operate is for most of the capital cost, we get some donation. And one of our important donors is the Fred Hollis Foundation from Australia. Yeah. But we also have the Himalayan Cataract Project from America. These are the two very strong partners that we have been working together since the inception. I've been together with the Fred Hollis Foundation before the Fred Hollis Foundation was.
Well, you knew Fred, didn't you? So,
of course, yeah, Fred and I, we sort of conceptualized the concept of low cost, high quality, appropriate surgical technology, and establishment of these intraocular lens labs in countries like Nepal to address. I really call it, reverse innovation. And some of the technology that we have now established in Nepal has been used in other parts of the world. And it's really been very gratifying. And so the capital cost comes from there, but the running cost and the operating cost we generate ourselves. Right. We have the more patients with a better paying capacity, they pay full, or they even, then there are, people who can pay less, they are subsidized. But people who have no money, they are very poor, they are given the same quality of treatment and for very little cost. So this subsidized pricing tier helps us in sustaining and meeting the operating cost. So we do meet the operating costs ourselves. And it's just the initial capital cost, just the initial phase of running cost that we need some donation from outside. Otherwise, most of the places, the self-sustainability is a very strong component, Kathie.
So I'm talking to a very esteemed ophthalmologist now, but it wasn't always that way. You grew up in a very remote part of the Himalayas, is that correct? The village was what, no more than 200 people?
Yeah. Yes, Kathie, if you, I don't know, many of you who know the Himalayas, in the eastern extent of the Mount Everest, the third highest mountain of the world is Mount Kanchenjunga. And my home is just at the foothills of Mount Kanchenjunga at the northeast corner of Nepal, which is like a rectangle. And I grew up, I sort of, spent my childhood at the bank of a, glacier river at an altitude of about 10,000 plus feet. And just a monastery and maybe about 150 to 200 houses, and of which about half of it was, sort of washed away by the river later on, and no schools. And the only attractive thing in the village was a large monastery right at the top of the hill. But otherwise, it's a very, very basic, and almost I would still feel that it was very sequestered, treated from other parts of Nepal and other parts of the world.
You talk about, Ali, when she's telling your story, talks about how you left your village and your mother when you were 7 years old. So it's just saying to me, you had your childhood there. A 7-year-old leaving to go to school in Kathmandu with your dad, who was a salt trader. How was it your dad that recognized you needed to get an education, that you had a certain, you had a mind that required challenge and the opportunity?
This is, say, way back.
Do you remember it?
Close to 60 years old, Catherine, and I think my father was a small-time salt trader. But besides that, he had spent some time as a monk in a monastery. And that really gave him, I believe that's what he used to tell me, he gave him the value of education. And he always felt the need for an education was so important. And for the whole challenge was for me to get educated. He had to take me all the way to the closest place at those times where, Kathmandu was almost 3 months walk at that time. So the closest place was in northeastern India, a place called Darjeeling, and where we had to walk all the way along the eastern ridge of Nepal for almost 15 days from my village to the school. So that's where, I think it's just because of my father's vision for the importance of education that he took that commitment to take me to this school, small Jesuit school in Darjeeling, where I encountered despite a lot of cultural shocks, I had wonderful education, really. So
did you ever, how old was your father when he died? Did he ever get to see you, complete your education and become a doctor? I don't recall that in the book.
Yes, Kathie, he passed away about 4 years ago when he was 92.
Wow.
And he lived with us to see his grandchildren grow up to become doctors too. And so he had been part and parcel of my phase of career development. Yeah. And very
Wow.
close. Yeah. So we just lost him about 4 years ago. Yeah.
Well, he must have been very proud to have, watched the journey of his son.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the education that you had, I mean, you didn't leave there, but it was too far to go home during holidays, so you stayed there. But you were a bit of a bookworm anyway. You enjoyed learning, and obviously you took upon that opportunity.
Yeah. Yes, Kathie. It was one of those sort of coastly Jesuit schools that very big buildings and very little light, and the only thing were books and chairs, and but I had a wonderful encounter with the warden of the hostel, Father Mickey, who was a Canadian who later on went on to Bhutan to establish the education system in Bhutan. And Father Mickey was almost like God sent to me. And because the fact that if I wanted to go for my holidays back home, it would nearly take me 2 months to come and go back and spend about few days at home. So it was almost impossible for me to go during the holidays. And I saw all my friends go home, and I was trying to, every time in the beginning, I tried to look at the parents coming and taking my friends out, and I would just imagine that my dad would just pop out from somewhere and ask me to come for, but I knew it was never going to happen. So, but Father Mickey was, went on to become a very good friend and a very good teacher. And he really taught me the value of education. He said, whatever you read in book, it's very important that you put it in your mind and how you can implement it to make it impactful. So some of the things that then he encouraged me to study the adventures of people like Marco Polo and understand geography. World is not small, world is very big. You need to understand about the world, study about people who have done a lot of great things in the past. And I really did whatever I learned from Father Mickey in those periods. And one of the things, Kathie, was for a small boy between 7 to 11, 12, to face all these hardships, psychological strengths, it gave me very strong psychological strength and mental will to stand up all these turbulences, during the holidays and other people, when nobody came to see me, and my friends, everybody would come. And some of the times when I was very sick, I used to be so depressed, but those were really, really good, because in my life after that, I never expected everything in my palm of my hand. I knew I had to work extremely hard for everything. So that was a wonderful thing. Yeah.
So it actually gave you strength. I mean,
Yes.
hearing your story, a little boy, I'm the mother of a son, and I can just imagine spending holidays all by yourself, but it sounds as though, the father that supported you did everything he could to make sure you were nurtured, as well as, encouraged to take advantage of your education. But at what point did you get to go home for a true holiday again, with your mum and your father?
Yeah, the first time that I went for a holiday was, I think, almost 3.5 years after the first admission.
Goodness.
That I went on to see my mom, and my mom was pretty happy, but pretty surprised to see me change,
Yes, I can imagine. Yeah.
And the changes in my, body. And so I had a few days of wonderful family, gathering. And but besides that, I went back and continued. And so it was 3.5 years after I got first time to Darjeeling. Yeah.
Right. And you were very close to your sister. That was sort of.
Yes, Kathie, and my elder sister and I were quite close, and you know, our house in our village was washed away by the floods. So my father and mother, they migrated to a lower place in Nepal, into a little bit, you know, closer to Kathmandu, and my sister then joined me to continue my further studies in my college in Kathmandu, and that's where myself and my sister, we stayed in a small room, rented, one room, you know, a kitchen in the same room, and you know, that kind of room. So I spent a lot of time with my sister, talking and singing to each other and going out and then going for shopping, you know. So that's how we
I mean, she tragically passed away, didn't she? When
Kathie, she was this is say almost way back in 1966 or so, when my sister was first diagnosed to have pulmonary tuberculosis. And those days, tuberculosis was, you know, it was treatable by some of the primary line of medications. And my sister actually did get some primary line of medication, and then she got a little better for the first 6 months, then she relapsed later on. She got resistant to the medicine, and we had no resources to, you know, to retrieve or get the second line medications that had just come in Western markets, you know, and we couldn't get those in Nepal. We couldn't buy them, and so she, fortunately, unfortunately, the doctors said, "This is it. We just have to allow her to give her the best food she can, and then, you know, we just have to wait for the time." So after 3 months of that, she passed away, very thin, and you know, it was really, you know, it's really sort of very sad for me, especially because we are so close, and then she always used to say that, brother, you have wonderful capacity and education. My performance was not bad, you know, so she always used to say that you should study further and do something that you can help many other people. And so that always was resonant to me. And I said, in a place like Nepal, where there must be hundreds of thousands of people like my sister who had died, who could be saved, you know, with proper medical treatment. So I decided that medicine is probably the line of my profession that I need to choose.
So that was the turning point, was it? Yeah.
That was really the inspiration that gave me to take up medicine, Kathie. Yeah.
And did you find medicine challenging, or was it like a duck to water? Was it something you thought, I can do this, I can be really good at this?
Medicine is not that simple, and you know, it's a very long profession.
Yes.
It's a very long profession, and profession I encountered with a lot of books and researches, and but ultimately, you know, I think the art is how you can translate your language, whatever you have learned, into in front of your patients by holding and carrying the patient, and transporting what you learned into somebody who's in front of you. That's really the art of what a doctor can be, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel. I feel that we have been given an opportunity by God or somebody, you know, that we can change the person in front of us, make that person much better than what he or she is. So what
was it that took you down the ophthalmology route? Was that seeing the need, or?
Yeah. Kathie, you know, this was, I had an opportunity to attend one of the surgical eye camps in Nepal, when I was a young general doctor, working in Kathmandu. And I accompanied one of my senior teachers to western part of Nepal. And he was doing a surgical camp there. And among all his patients, there were 5 offsprings of the same family coming up from the hills for surgery who had what we call as a congenital cataract. Cataract, which is seen at birth, and to see that in the same family and to see how it affects the family, in a chain-like thing, and then all the 5 getting surgery, and after a day or so, everybody getting, back to their normal work. And what really sort of impressed me and, impacted me was such a short intervention can, in such a short time, change the lives of people. So that sort of started kicking in my head, and I started thinking, I think this is probably the branch of medicine that I would love to pursue, to see how, so that's another part of mine.
So where did you, how did you meet Fred Hollis? Like, that must have been quite a story.
It was actually, I met Fred when Fred was not very popular even in Australia. This was in 1985. And I had just gone back as a young ophthalmologist. I had just finished my ophthalmology from India and gone back to Nepal and working in Nepal Eye Hospital. And Fred was invited by the World Health Organization to look into the status of trachoma in southwest Nepal. And Fred was a bit of an expert on trachoma, you know that? And he had done a lot of trachoma work in the Australian outback, So WHO had, had invited him to come and have a look at the status of trachoma in Nepal. So he came as a short-term, World Health Organization consultant. And I was not assigned to go and receive him. I was doing my clinical work in the hospital, and I just went to go after my rounds. I went to have a cup of tea on the back of the hospital at the Prevention of Blindness office. And one of my colleagues who was working for the World Health Organization was supposedly assigned to go and pick up. They said there's a delegate coming from somewhere, and I'm just going to pick up. And I thought that's just one of the exercises that he was. So he just asked me, are you free? And I said I was very young, unmarried, no other baggages. So I said, why not hop in the car with you? So I went to airport with him. And in those days, we had a very small airport, and the passengers came out, and we were asked to look for WHO consultant from Australia. Yeah, and so whenever we look at a WHO consultant, you always think about somebody at those days, somebody with a suit and a tie. And a bit of a, they used to have a fashion of carrying a briefcase those days, you remember,
Yeah, I do.
So that was sort of part of the, so we had that imagination in our thought process. So we were looking for that. And so anyway, 2 or 3 Australians that we marked were none that we were come to receive. So we thought that it's harder. So we were just moving out, and in the station where there was a money changing, small money changing, sort of outlet there. And hey, are you looking for me? I said, and we look at him, and he's looking at this quite ragged gentleman, and with his jackets and jeans, and then trying to pump up his pipes with the Inmore cigarette, and carrying his big red leather bag. And we just asked him, "Where are you from, sir?" He said, I'm from New Zealand. Well, we're looking for somebody from Australia. No, he said, I mean, I didn't know that he was carrying an Australian, New Zealand passport, you know. So that's how we encountered. No, I'm Fred Hollis, and you know, you're the guy. I'm the guy you could have come to pick up. So we picked him up from the airport. That was how you know, Kathie. It was purely destiny. I was not supposed to come and pick him up, and so he sat in the front of the car, and we sat on the back of the Jeep. So he started a bit of a chit chat with my senior colleague about his programs. And then suddenly he found this the funny young guy on the back, you know. He said, what you doing, young man, you know? I said, I'm an ophthalmologist. I've just, you know, been working in the eye hospital. So what's your interest, you know? Oh, my interest is cataract, you know. So then we started talking about what, you know, what the status of ophthalmology in the world, and a little bit about cataract surgery those days. And somehow, you know, Fred said, I don't know what happened. I tell you, Kathie, you know, this is what happened. But Fred said, can you come and join me for breakfast tomorrow morning in Summit Hotel? He was staying in a hotel called Summit, you know. So I said, sure, and I'll come. Yeah. So, you know, so he invited, I don't know what he saw, but he invited me for breakfast. And so we had a breakfast next day, and that's where we started talking about, he was very interested in what I was doing. He saw some of the things that I told him really stuck to him, to his heart. Yeah. So yeah. He and then ultimately what happened was he had to spend about 12 days for his work in the far western area. He finished that. And then he came back to Kathmandu and he said, I want to stay for further 15 days working with you. And so he took out 15 days. And not only that, but he had asked his wife to come over and join him. So Gabby joined us in the second half, where we went to the eastern part of Nepal, totally non-trachoma. We were talking about eye care, we were talking about cataract, you know. Yeah. So we went to the eastern part of Nepal and, you know, spent wonderful 15 days talking about what we don't have and how we can have it, and making castles in the air, you know. And, yeah, so Fred was almost, you know, very energetic, and he liked
larger than life. Yeah,
he liked you know, talk, and so that's how we went on to spend. And I had both of us now became quite close to each other, and that was really the start of our relationship and our meeting, Kathie.
So
since that time, I have a very strong belief in destiny.
Yes, well, I'm just listening to your whole story. It sounds as though you've been put on a path to do certain things. I mean, who would think a little boy would end up, you know, all that way in a school and not go home for 3 years and become one of the world's leading ophthalmologists? It's an extraordinary story. And you met your wife in she was a nurse in a hospital, that's my understanding?
Yes, Kathie, she used to work as an ophthalmic nurse in the same hospital that I used to work. So we saw each other in the operating theater.
That's a great place to date.
Great place, yeah.
Yeah, and you've got what, children now that are all doctors?
Yeah,
is that?
They're all grown up. I have a son who is 31, who's a doctor, and I have a daughter who's 27. Who's now a health management professional. And then a third daughter who's 24, who's just become a doctor.
Runs in the family. So I've got to ask, I mean, I gather you don't feel as though your work's complete. What's next? What have you got to do? What's part of your journey to get finished now?
Kathie, you know, I think it'll be interesting to a lot of your listeners to understand that, you know, we work in places where countries are developing, and wherever there is developing countries, there is a lack of governance, there's unstable government. So health interventions either are run by state.
Mm.
And state-run health interventions are of poor quality, badly managed, and there is no ownership among people who are giving it. So there's a startup of lots of private sector in those areas. And the problem with the private sector is they have okay management, but the poor people cannot afford to go there. You see, the quality may be a little better. So we believe that we have to stay somewhere in between the two. And I've always been advocating the health intervention in the models of social entrepreneurship. And so we have a cost recovery scheme, but make sure that there is no barrier for poor people to come for surgery or treatment. But at the same time, the powerful people will come and pay for it because the quality is good, it's managed very well. So that's the kind of model that I am advocating right now. And one of the models that I call is a community eye hospital that we have set up in one place in China, one in northeastern India, and about 2 in Nepal, and one with the Fred Hollis Foundation in Vietnam now, and one we are establishing in Ethiopia. And this is a wonderful model where we spent initially about $3 million for infrastructure, equipments, and the first 3 years of running cost. And then after that, it starts to meet the operating cost and starts slowly to make money. And the beauty of this is the team continuously gives state-of-the-art quality eye care at the grassroots level for a population of a little more than 1 million people. And this program is sustainable, and it does see about 300 patients a day and surgery of about 5,000. And, it's such an impactful for that kind of money, for the effect that it can give. So this is the community eye hospital that I'm trying to raise funds and establish in other parts of Nepal, other parts of the world. That is one that I'm, right now. The second thing that I'm working very hard is, with the Fred Hollis Foundation, and Fred and I advocated the establishment of the intraocular lens manufacturing in a place like Nepal. And we brought down the cost of these intraocular lenses. Normally, they used to cost about $200. We brought the cost down to less than $3.
My goodness.
Yeah, and this was great because it brought in not hundreds, millions of people within the target group of modern cataract surgery now. So I think it has a great public health impact. And until now, we have distributed about 6 million intraocular lenses worldwide. And most of these lenses have gone into people who couldn't have afforded to buy it, and also made the surgery accessible to them and affordable to them. So one of my next goals is to take the intraocular lens manufacturer and raise a little bit of fund to take it to a next level where we can produce about 3 times of the volume that we can produce now, and go into some of the more premium models, and it can actually make some profits out of it, and those profits can go into community work. So that's the idea. So this is the next thing that I'm working very hard on, and we already have the technology with us because we make these intraocular lenses. They are so good in making this intraocular. It's just a matter of capacity building.
Yeah. Okay.
So and there is
and jobs.
Jobs. Oh, it can create. I would say by doing this, we could probably create another 400 or 500 people to have employment.
Yeah. Okay. So against all this background, because for many of us we're trying to move forward with our lives, but then COVID struck. What's it like? How's that impacted your work?
It has quite severely affected our work, and during the lockdowns, which happened for about a month, everything was locked out, and we could only run casualty services. Then after that, we are slowly picking up. The services have nowhere close to what you used to do pre-COVID area, but we are, say, close to 30–40% of the numbers that we were treating pre-COVID area now. It's slowly coming back, but Nepal at present is still seeing a lot of cases. We're seeing about, on an average, 2,500 cases a day.
Oh, really? Okay.
But fortunately, our death rate has been very low. So, but it's like everywhere else, except in Australia, you are very lucky. You have managed it so well, and everywhere else, it has produced complex problems, problems of management of hospital, and problems of the supply chain, and problems of now. I think we're going to have severe economic crisis, and of course the unemployment, So,
which makes it much worse for a developing country, because it's already unstable in terms of economics and jobs. So I guess, and it's the same everywhere. I mean, even in Australia, everyone's employment's huge. With a life like you've lived, and you do feel as though you're on a destiny path, what does spirituality mean to you? Does it mean that you've been taken on this journey, or do you believe in a higher purpose? What does it mean to you?
I had, like I said, I had a lot of respect for my dad, for my father. My father was I would say, one of the most spiritual persons that I've ever seen. And he was a very ardent follower of Buddhism. And he had his teacher, and whom I don't know. I still can't explain to you whether I have become totally spiritual or not, or just trying to step in the footsteps of my father. But I do believe that spirituality means we are making ourselves accountable to somebody up there.
Whatever that means,
whatever that is. For me, I always find that the best spirituality that I get is because I spend long hours in the operating theater, and the height of spirituality that I get is sitting in the operating theater and being with my patient's eyes again and again and again, and I really I forget about everything else, and that's what spirituality is,
Absolutely, and that saying, the windows to the soul. You're looking into a lot of eyes.
Yeah, but it's good that I'm doing something with with total focus. And I feel I really enjoy it, and so I don't know.
So tell me, I mean, long hours and stress, high stress, I should imagine, because you're doing many projects at once as well. How do you take care of yourself? What do you do to look after you?
We're very fortunate to be, staying very close to a beautiful temple, monastery called Monkey Temple, which is situated right at the top of the hill. And it's about 10 minutes walk from here. Go there and go uphill, and right at the top, it's about 3,000 feet above the ground level. And but going up and getting up there, it makes you a different person up there. You feel the serenity,
right?
And then the bells, and people chanting. Whatever ways you can everybody likes to get close to somebody, And, I believe that's I'm telling you, I'm still quite immature, but I'm trying to learn to become spiritual. I think there is tremendous benefit out of it.
Yeah.
It makes you a better person, more effective, and getting closer to spirituality is, I think, you do less damage, collateral damage to other people.
That's a great statement.
You don't do things which are dangerous in life, you know.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I think these are really, yeah.
Well,
I don't know whether I'm trying to
No.
explain.
I think, yeah, less collateral damage is a great way to say it, because in Australia at the moment, we're having unprecedented corruption in our public officials. And I just look at it and think, oh my goodness, what have we got to do? And, you know, when you spoke about developing countries and corruption, I thought, yeah, all right, it was all man-made, isn't it? It's greed.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Yeah.
The other, other height of spiritualism that I get on is when I see the patients the next day and remove their patches, and that's where I giggle like a little boy.
Do you?
Yeah, and that's where I forget everything and enjoy with the patient. And patient says that one of the patients says that I feel like I'm out of a very long, deep sleep, or I've just come out of the womb of the mother, you know. So such wonderful things that,
And that's never left you. You still get that wonderful high from...
Of course, it really recharges your battery. And that's what spiritualism is. It's all about.
It is indeed. It is indeed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. It's been a wonderful conversation. And when I spoke to Ali, I'm talking to her later this week, she said, oh, he'll be out walking near the temple. So there you go. You just mentioned that. So thank you so much. Talk to you again.
Kathie.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.